Hello and welcome to today's review of Absolver on Xbox One X. This is a third-person action RPG developed by Slowclap and published by Devolver Digital. It was released in August of 2017, with the Xbox One version being released in January of 2019. I played this game for the Gamepass Quest without using any guides. Stick around to the end of this review for 5 things I liked and 5 things I did not like about this game. I played this on an Xbox One X and a 27-inch 4K HDR monitor wearing Turtle Beach Stealth 600 headphones. This is an open-world 3D fighting game with splashes of 3D ARPGs tossed in. It is focused on martial arts with mostly hand-to-hand combat, kicking, punching, that sort of thing. There are weapons available, but they don't seem to be a major focus. The visuals of this game are cartoony. The textures and colors all have kind of a matte feel to them. I wouldn't call it muted because there are definitely some areas that the lighting is good and it's very bright, but it definitely is more of that matte kind of toned down feel. The textures, while detailed, aren't realistically detailed. So they're not poor textures, but they may not have the level of detail someone looking for a realistic view might see. The background music in this game does not intrude at all, and the environmental sounds match the visuals when you're doing fighting. The punching, the kicking, there's grunting, there's some hand slapping that goes on here and there, and all of that gives you a little bit of insight into how the fight is going, kind of amplifying what you're seeing on the screen. This game is normally $30, and as of this recording is available for $24 with your Game Pass discount. There is no DLC listed for the game. Speaking of Game Pass, the Gamepass Quest for this was to kill 6 players. When I initially talked about this at the beginning of the month in my monthly Quest update, watch for November is coming soon, I figured this meant you would have to do multiplayer, and I was right. It requires that you go online, you find actual people, and you have to defeat them. There are 2 things that will come into play to complete this quest. 1, you have to be online. 2, you have to find people that you can defeat. As you start out, your character is going to be weaker, this is going to be harder, so there will be a time commitment to get this quest for 75 points. It took me about 4 hours of gameplay, and I spread it out over about that many days. This is not an achievement safe quest. I looked through the achievements I've gained, and technically it looks like it could be achievement safe, but if it takes you very long, you will definitely gain an achievement on your way to getting this quest. If you like hearing about these Game Pass quests in a timely fashion, make sure you subscribe down below. The more subscribers I have, the more time I can commit to getting these reviews done more quickly and closer to the beginning of the month. The character you play in this game is faceless, and their only identity is basically what you decide on. You do get to build what the character looks like before you start playing, within the context of their character generator. The basic story for this game largely introduces the greater multiplayer game. It's not a very deep story, and it's really just there to familiarize you with the game, get you playing, and get you understanding what's going on. This is not a button-mashing fighting game. Timing is extremely important as opposed to hitting lots of buttons. You can build combo chains, and you can shift between your different combo chains in the middle depending on which of your attack buttons you push. So that makes this more of a chess-like game. Basic fighting is pretty easy to pick up. It's a combination of the X button, the Y button, and movement, but it is difficult to master. There are tons of unlockable moves, and later on you'll start to learn about different player-generated fighting styles. That said, the controls themselves are fairly basic. You use one stick to move, you use another stick to kind of do your special move, and you have some buttons for fighting and blocking. The gameplay loop here is more of those unlockable moves. Building your character up, making them stronger, and finding different fighting styles. Improving your gear is also in here to get the right balance of offense and defense for your style of play. This game is going to be highly replayable for you if you like the multiplayer fighting aspect of the game. If you're not into that multiplayer fighting aspect, this is not going to be a game that you're going to want to come back to after completing the story. There are some things I didn't like about this game. There is a lack of depth to the single-player story. Now, at my heart, I am a single-player story type of gamer, so take this with that in mind, but I felt like the single-player story just wasn't enough to get me into the game. I also didn't like the forced multiplayer aspect of the game. We've all run into enough players online that we would rather not be playing with to appreciate the ability to go offline or to select only the people you want to play with for your online multiplayer. This game forces you online with the general public. There was limited guidance in many parts of this game. You had a path you could follow, but knowing exactly how to go through that path is something that you had to discover through trial and error. A little bit more guidance would have been nice in helping people to get through. Inventory in this game is something that seemed like it was an afterthought. There didn't seem to be a good way to manage your inventory, and there may have been a way to get rid of stuff that you didn't care about anymore, but I didn't see it in my playthrough. Finally, the character management for the RPG components of this game were also somewhat confusing. This is especially true when you started getting into customizing your character's moves. There is a very, very elaborate system of moves and chaining that you can get into, but there's very little guidance on how best to do that available for you right there in the game. There's also a lot to like about this game. It is very visually appealing. The game being played in 4K just looked great. I could play games that look like this all the time and I would never complain about the visual aesthetics. Even though there was forced multiplayer, you had limited interactions with real people. Basically, you would meet, maybe do an emote or two, have a fight, and then go your separate ways. So that was good in the sense that you weren't chatting on an open channel, but again, it's still forced multiplayer. I appreciated the simple controls in this game. Some fighting games can get really complex with many different buttons and button combinations to do different kind of moves. This one just has a few buttons, and that makes it a little bit more accessible to many people. Another thing I like about this game is when you hit a groove, it just kind of works. That's not to say if you hit a groove, combat becomes easy, but if you manage to get in there and hit that groove, combat starts to feel good. Your attacks will start to feel like they're hitting the way you want them to, and when you find that groove and then you hit it, it really pulls the game together and it makes those moments very, very enjoyable. Finally, I like how this game is open and replayable. The open world aspect means you can just kind of wander around and go where you want to do what you want. A lot of exploring available there within the game world itself. It's also highly replayable. If you are looking for a fighting game that you can keep playing and getting better at, this one's going to keep you busy for a very long time. If you like this style of review, make sure you hit the thumbs up button down below. That tells me I'm doing it right, tells YouTube I'm doing it right, and it helps more of them show up in your queue later on. Now, for my final verdict, if you are a fighting game enthusiast, this is a steal at $24 and a great deal at $30. For me personally, this game is going to be a pass. I'm not sure I'm even going to keep it on my hard drive after this review because I just didn't really get into the playstyle itself. November is almost here as I'm recording this, so make sure you stick around the channel for more reviews and more Gamepass Quest info as Microsoft keeps updating quests and giving us free Microsoft points.